The sight of the gun pressed against his son's head sent a wave of fear through Johnny Cash.
We hope you can be with your loved ones this Christmas, and if you can or if you can't, I'd like to invite you for the next hour to share just a little bit of Christmas with my family and with my friends.
Did you know Johnny Cash and his family were held hostage in Jamaica while eating Christmas dinner? On Christmas Day, 1982, what began as a joyous family celebration turned into a harrowing night, a terrifying robbery that would forever mark Cash's life. This is the story of a man, a home, and the unforgettable night that tested him and his family's resilience. Where did it happen? Cinnamon Hill is a place with a long and storied history, one that spans centuries and holds echoes of a bygone era. Originally established in 1734, the estate was built during Jamaica's plantation period. Its limestone walls and sturdy construction designed to endure the island's hurricanes. It was a site of both grandeur and suffering, standing as a relic of the sugar trade and the lives of countless enslaved people who labored on its grounds. Among its more notable connections is that to the famed poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning, whose ancestors once owned the property. The estate's enduring elegance and its layered past created an allure that captivated all who visited, including one of music's most legendary figures, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash first encountered Cinnamon Hill in the early 1970s during a visit to Jamaica with his family. At the time, the estate was owned by John Rollins, an American businessman and close friend of Cash. On that fateful trip, Rollins gave Cash a tour of the property, showcasing its rich history, its grand architecture, and its breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape. It didn't take long for Cash to fall deeply in love with the estate. For him, Cinnamon Hill was more than just a beautiful home. It was a place where he felt a deep, almost spiritual connection to the land and its rhythms. Jamaica, with its lush vegetation, fragrant flowers, and vast starry skies, reminded Cash of his rural upbringing in Arkansas. The simplicity and natural beauty of the island resonated with him in a way few other places ever had. He saw in Cinnamon Hill not only a retreat, but also a reflection of the life he longed for, a balance between solitude and creativity, rest and inspiration. This connection to the land would become a recurring theme in his life, grounding him amidst the whirlwind of fame. Cash was determined to make Cinnamon Hill his own, but convincing Rollins to part with the property proved challenging. Rollins had no intention of selling the estate, and for a time it seemed the idea was nothing more than a dream. But Cash, never one to back down from a challenge, began restoring the house at his own expense, determined to breathe new life into its aging walls. He poured his energy and resources into the project, making improvements and envisioning how the estate could become a home for his family. His unwavering determination eventually wore Rollins down, and the businessman agreed to sell the estate to his friend. Once the property became his, Cash embraced the quirks and mysteries that came with it. Cinnamon Hill was known among locals for its reputation as a haunted house, a legend passed down through generations. Over the years, visitors and previous owners had reported strange occurrences, unexplained noises, shadowy figures, and doors opening or closing on their own. Some claimed to have seen a woman in white gliding through the hallways, while others spoke of a young boy appearing near the grounds. For Cash, these tales only added to the estate's charm. Rather than being frightened, he embraced the stories, seeing them as part of the rich tapestry of the home's history. The estate quickly became a retreat, where Cash could escape the pressures of his career and immerse himself in creativity. He wrote much of his autobiography within its walls, and composed several songs inspired by his time in Jamaica. The house also became a haven for his friends and collaborators, with figures like Billy Graham borrowing it as a place of solitude to write. Despite its eerie reputation, Cinnamon Hill was a source of renewal for Cash, offering him a space where he could reconnect with his roots and reflect on his life. This deep connection to the estate and the island went beyond its physical beauty. Cash felt a kinship with the people of Jamaica, often describing their warmth and resilience with great admiration. He became involved in local life, participating in community projects, and embracing the culture. For him, Cinnamon Hill wasn't just a vacation home, it was a place of belonging, a sanctuary that offered peace amidst the storm of his personal struggles and the relentless demands of his public life. Cinnamon Hill symbolized many things for Johnny Cash. It was a reminder of the simple joys of his childhood, a retreat where he could recharge, and a space that fueled his creativity. But the estate was also a place that carried a sense of mystery, a duality that mirrored Cash's own life. Like him, the property had a storied past, one that blended beauty with darkness, triumph with hardship. And in this balance, Cash found not only a home, but also a source of enduring inspiration. Johnny Cash often spoke of Cinnamon Hill with a mix of affection and intrigue. The estate, while serene and picturesque, carried an air of mystery that was impossible to ignore. Local legends whispered of ghosts that roamed its halls, and over the years, these stories were supported by first-hand accounts from guests and residents alike. For Cash and his family, these tales were not merely folklore. They were personal experiences. One of the most compelling ghost stories at Cinnamon Hill involved a mysterious woman dressed in white. Cash recounted an evening when he and several others saw her glide through the dining room. She appeared to be in her early 30s, wearing a long, flowing dress. Without a word, she passed through a locked set of doors, and then, from the other side, knocked on them 3 times in rapid succession. The witnesses were left stunned, but strangely they felt no fear. For Cash, this encounter became part of the estate's charm, a curious addition to its rich history. Another recurring apparition was that of a young boy, often seen near the grounds or in the hallways. His presence, too, seemed benign, more a curiosity than a threat. Cash and his family came to accept these phenomena as a natural part of life at Cinnamon Hill. The ghosts, as Cash described them, were never malicious. They didn't harm or frighten anyone, but instead became quiet companions in the home's story. The Cash family often joked about the spectral visitors, treating them with a mix of humor and reverence. Visitors to the estate also reported strange occurrences. Waylon Jennings and Jesse Coulter, close friends of Cash, once stayed at Cinnamon Hill and claimed to hear odd noises during the night. Initially unsettled, they later chalked it up to the wind brushing tree branches against the house. However, many others who spent time there were less quick to dismiss what they experienced. Stories of doors opening on their own, inexplicable footsteps, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures became a common part of conversations about Cinnamon Hill. Despite the frequent accounts of supernatural activity, the Cash family remained unbothered by their ghostly housemates. Johnny Cash himself often expressed a sense of peace about it, even humor. He saw the ghosts as harmless, and their presence only deepened the connection he felt to the estate's past. To him, the spirits were reminders of the many lives and stories that had passed through Cinnamon Hill, a testament to the home's enduring legacy. But while the ghosts may have been harmless, not all threats to the Cash family were so benign. The serene beauty and rich history of Cinnamon Hill were marred by a far more dangerous reality: the actions of living men driven by desperation. For all its charm and mystique, the estate was not immune to the harsher truths of the world outside its gates. These dangers would eventually collide with Cash and his family in a way that no ghost ever could. The calm of Cinnamon Hill was shattered not by spectral knocks on a door, but by the terrifying intrusion of armed men, marking a night that would forever remain etched in Cash's memory. It was this stark contrast, the ethereal peace of the ghostly encounters against the very real violence of human desperation, that highlighted the dual nature of Cinnamon Hill. For Cash, the supernatural presence was a reminder of the past, but the events of Christmas Day 1982 served as a chilling warning of the fragility of the present. It was a night that redefined the sense of safety and solitude he had come to cherish in his Jamaican retreat. It was a picture-perfect Christmas at Cinnamon Hill. The dining table was adorned with festive decorations, and the smell of a meticulously prepared holiday feast filled the air. Johnny Cash, June Carter, their son John Carter Cash, and a close-knit group of family and friends had gathered to celebrate. Laughter and the joyful hum of conversation echoed through the halls as the group sat down to enjoy their meal. But just as they bowed their heads to say grace, the peace of the moment was shattered. The doors to the house burst open, and chaos descended. 3 men stormed in, each entering from a different point of the house. Their faces were obscured by pantyhose masks, distorting their features into a terrifying blur. One carried a large knife, another wielded a hatchet, and the third held a gun, its presence commanding immediate fear. Their movements were swift and calculated, their voices loud and aggressive as they barked orders to the stunned group. "Nobody move! Somebody's going to die tonight!" one of them yelled, sending a wave of panic through the room. The robbers forced everyone to lie face down on the floor, their voices sharp and threatening. Tension filled the air as they demanded an impossible sum: $1 million. Johnny Cash, always composed even in the face of danger, tried to explain calmly that such an amount wasn't on hand. He reasoned with them, stating that strict Jamaican laws prevented the transport of such large sums of money onto the island. But the intruders were unmoved, their eyes scanning the room for valuables. The man with the gun quickly zeroed in on the children. He grabbed young John Carter's friend, Doug Caldwell, and held the weapon to his head. "Do what I say, or this boy dies," he snarled. The room went silent, the weight of the threat bearing down on everyone. But a moment later, the gunman realized he had the wrong child. His attention shifted to John Carter Cash, who now became the focus of his intimidation. The sight of the gun pressed against his son's head sent a wave of fear through Johnny Cash. But he remained outwardly calm, determined to de-escalate the situation. The robbers began moving through the house, forcing everyone to accompany them as they searched for anything of value. Room by room, they collected cash, jewelry, and other items, their actions methodical and deliberate. Strangely, they weren't reckless. Instead of tearing the house apart, they carefully rifled through drawers and cabinets, taking what they deemed valuable without leaving a mess. Their behavior was chilling in its precision, as if they had planned every step of the heist. As they entered the master bedroom, the dynamic shifted slightly. The gunman, still holding John Carter hostage, began engaging him in a bizarre conversation. "What do you like to do here? Do you snorkel? Do you swim?" he asked, his tone oddly casual given the circumstances. Despite the gun at his head, John Carter responded with remarkable composure. "No, sir. I respect the water, but I don't snorkel much." The gunman seemed taken aback by the boy's calm demeanor, and even began to show a strange admiration for him. "You're a cool kid," he said. It was a surreal moment that stood in stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, the robbers continued their systematic looting. Among the items they took were 175 pairs of shoes that Johnny and June had purchased as gifts for children at a local orphanage. This theft was particularly devastating for the family. The shoes had been intended as an act of kindness, a way to give back to the local community. But now they were gone, reduced to spoils for the intruders. The heartbreak of that loss lingered long after the robbers had left. Once the robbers had collected their haul, they decided it was time to leave. But before making their escape, they herded everyone into the basement, locking the door behind them to ensure no one could follow. The fear among the group was palpable, with the basement confinement bringing fresh waves of panic. For the women in particular, the prospect of being trapped in such a vulnerable position was overwhelming. Then, in an act of twisted irony, the robbers slid a plate of Christmas turkey under the door before leaving. It was a strange gesture that seemed almost mocking, as if to say they hadn't entirely forgotten the holiday spirit. While most of the group remained too shaken to eat, young John Carter and his friend Doug wasted no time devouring the food, their hunger outweighing their fear. It was a brief moment of normalcy in an otherwise harrowing night. Outside, the robbers loaded their stolen goods into the family's Range Rover. The barking of the estate's dogs came too late, their presence ineffective against the carefully orchestrated crime. The intruders drove off into the night, leaving the family locked in the basement with no immediate way to call for help. Johnny Cash and his brother-in-law Chuck Hussey eventually managed to break down the barricaded door, freeing the group and allowing them to assess the damage. The aftermath was devastating. In addition to the stolen shoes, the robbers had made off with an estimated $35,000 to $50,000 in cash, jewelry, and other valuables. The sense of violation was profound, not just because of the material losses, but because of the sheer audacity of the crime. The Cash family's sanctuary had been invaded, its peace disrupted by violence and greed. For Johnny Cash, the incident was a stark reminder of the fragility of safety. His calm under pressure had likely saved lives that night, but the trauma of the event left a lasting impact. The theft of the orphanage shoes in particular weighed heavily on him, a cruel twist to what should have been a season of giving. It was a Christmas like no other, a night that tested the strength and resilience of everyone involved. The harrowing ordeal at Cinnamon Hill finally ended when Johnny Cash and his brother-in-law Chuck Hussey managed to break down the barricaded door of the basement. The two men worked tirelessly to free the family and guests, who had been trapped in fear and uncertainty for hours. Once out, they assessed the damage and realized the extent of what had been taken: money, jewelry, personal items, and, most heartbreakingly, the 175 pairs of shoes meant for orphaned children. Though shaken, the group knew they had to act quickly. Some accounts suggest that Cash immediately contacted the authorities, while others claim workers from the estate drove into Montego Bay to raise the alarm. Either way, the incident set off a series of events that would become as controversial as the crime itself. The local police and the Jamaican Defense Force acted swiftly in response to the robbery, determined to bring the perpetrators to justice. But what followed was shrouded in speculation and conflicting stories. According to one account, the gunman was apprehended the very night of the robbery and killed while resisting arrest. The other two robbers, described as teenagers, were reportedly captured weeks later in Kingston, after committing another crime. However, their fate was even more unsettling. While in custody, they were allegedly assigned to a work detail involving a ladder. When they attempted to use the ladder to escape, guards reportedly shot and killed them. This version of events left many questioning whether the escape attempt had been orchestrated as a pretext for their deaths. Another narrative suggests that all three robbers were part of a gang or terrorist group linked to a leader who had been killed shortly before the robbery. In this version, the robbers were captured attempting to flee Jamaica with the stolen items, their plan foiled at the Montego Bay airport. Regardless of the specifics, the outcome remained the same. All three young men were dead within weeks of the crime, leaving no opportunity for a trial or rehabilitation. For Johnny Cash, these developments brought little closure and instead left him wrestling with a profound sense of conflict. Cash was no stranger to the struggles of addiction and crime. He had faced his own demons over the years, including run-ins with the law during his battles with substance abuse. As a man who had sought redemption for his past mistakes, Cash found it deeply troubling that the robbers had been denied the same chance. In his reflections, he expressed sorrow not only for the trauma inflicted on his family, but also for the desperate circumstances that had driven the young men to commit such an act. He felt a strange kinship with them, recognizing the same desperation and need that he had once experienced himself. The swift and violent end to their lives weighed heavily on him, a stark reminder of the systemic failures that perpetuated cycles of poverty and crime. The incident also highlighted the broader social and political challenges facing Jamaica at the time. The island was grappling with significant unrest, fueled in part by what Cash referred to as the Ganja Wars. Political tensions, economic instability, and violence related to the drug trade created an environment where desperation often led to tragedy. For Cash, the robbery was not just a personal ordeal, but a window into the struggles faced by the people of Jamaica. He admired the resilience and warmth of the Jamaican people, and understood that the robbery was not representative of the community as a whole. If anything, it deepened his resolve to remain connected to the island and its culture. Despite the trauma of the event, Cash made the decision to stay in Jamaica. He refused to let fear or anger drive him away from a place he had grown to love so deeply. Instead, he became even more involved in local life, strengthening his ties to the community and contributing to various charitable efforts. The robbery, rather than deterring him, seemed to galvanize his commitment to making a positive impact. He continued to walk the grounds of Cinnamon Hill, greeted warmly by locals who admired his decision to remain despite what had happened. For Cash, the aftermath of the robbery was a time of reflection and growth. It forced him to confront the complexities of justice, forgiveness, and resilience. While the incident left scars, it also reaffirmed his belief in the importance of connection and community. He found solace in the kindness of those around him and in the beauty of the land he had come to call home. Cinnamon Hill, with all its history and mystique, remained a sanctuary for Cash, even after that fateful Christmas night. Through it all, he chose to focus not on the darkness of the event, but on the light he could bring to others, embodying the spirit of redemption that had defined his own life. The events of that Christmas night in 1982 left an indelible mark on Johnny Cash, shaping his thoughts on violence, desperation, and the fragility of human existence. The trauma of the robbery forced him to confront harsh realities, both about the world and about himself. Yet, in typical Johnny Cash fashion, he sought meaning in the chaos, choosing to reflect on the incident not as an isolated act of cruelty, but as a window into the deeper struggles of society. Cash often spoke about the desperation that drives people to extreme actions, a desperation he understood all too well from his own battles with addiction and darkness. Rather than harbor resentment, he sought to find empathy, recognizing the systemic injustices that can push individuals to the edge. This perspective didn't diminish the gravity of the robbery, nor did it minimize the terror his family experienced. But Cash refused to let bitterness consume him. He viewed the ordeal as a stark reminder of the importance of forgiveness, a principle he had embraced throughout his life. Forgiveness, for Cash, was not just about absolving others, but about freeing oneself from the weight of anger and vengeance. It was a way to move forward, to heal, and to focus on what truly mattered. For Cash, that meant continuing to find beauty and purpose, even in the aftermath of such a harrowing experience. Despite the trauma, Johnny Cash's love for Jamaica remained unshaken. Cinnamon Hill had become a place of profound inspiration for him, and the robbery, as devastating as it was, could not sever that bond. He often spoke of the island's unparalleled beauty, its vibrant culture, and the warmth of its people. While some might have fled after such an incident, Cash chose to stay, to rebuild, and to deepen his connection to the land and its community. He believed that to leave would be to give in to fear, something he had spent his entire life resisting. Cash's decision to remain at Cinnamon Hill was not just about personal resilience. It was also a testament to his unwavering commitment to charity and giving back. The robbery had taken more than just material possessions. It had stolen gifts meant for orphaned children. Yet Cash did not let this dishearten his efforts. He continued his charitable work in Jamaica, providing support to those in need and using his platform to make a difference. His involvement with the local community became a cornerstone of his legacy on the island, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there is always room for compassion. Cinnamon Hill itself remained a sanctuary for Cash, a place where he could find peace amidst the storms of life. He often described his walks along the property, taking in the lush vegetation, the sound of the waves, and the brilliance of the starlit skies. It was here that he felt most connected to his roots, to the simplicity and serenity he had known as a boy growing up in Arkansas. The estate, with its rich history and haunting beauty, became a source of inspiration for his music and his writing. Many of his songs and parts of his autobiography were created within its walls, infused with the spirit of the land that had become his second home. Today, Cinnamon Hill stands as a tribute to Johnny Cash's enduring legacy. Preserved as a museum, it offers visitors a glimpse into the life and artistry of a man who found light in the darkest of moments. Memorabilia from his time there, including family photos and personal items, serve as reminders of the man behind the legend, a man who loved deeply, gave generously, and never stopped seeking redemption. The surrounding golf course and stunning vistas only enhance the sense of timelessness that the estate embodies. In the end, the robbery was just one chapter in the story of Johnny Cash's life, a story defined by resilience, reflection, and a relentless pursuit of meaning. While that Christmas night brought fear and loss, it also reaffirmed the values that Cash held dear: forgiveness, compassion, and an unshakable belief in the power of renewal. Cinnamon Hill, with all its history and mystique, remained a place of peace for him, a testament to his ability to rise above adversity and find beauty even in the face of life's harshest trials. Johnny Cash's legacy is not just one of music, but of enduring strength, a legacy that lives on in the heart of Jamaica and beyond. The Christmas Day robbery at Cinnamon Hill was more than just a traumatic event. It became a lens through which to view Johnny Cash's unique capacity for empathy and resilience. It reflected the depth of his understanding of human struggles, his own and those of others. Cash saw life for what it was, a complex weave of beauty and darkness, joy and hardship, and he embraced it all with an open heart. The incident was a stark reminder of life's fragility, but also of the strength that can be found in forgiveness, love, and community. From this harrowing experience, Cash drew lessons that resonate far beyond his personal story. He taught us to find meaning in pain, to look beyond anger, and to seek connection even in the face of loss. His life at Cinnamon Hill, marked by both serenity and chaos, became a testament to the power of resilience. Johnny Cash's journey reminds us that in the darkest moments, there is always a path to redemption, guided by love, hope, and the unyielding strength of the human spirit.